So with that, I'd like to propose an amendment to the recommendation that we have before us. And if you'll indulge me here, I'll read it out. A, that the board approve the 2012 strategic budget initiatives of $1.366 million and the one-time budget adjustments of $1.031 million as outlined in this report, with the exception of the item pertaining to lifeguards. B, that staff report back with options that allow the board to meet its 2012 budget requirements.
Do I hear a second? Commissioner Lowe?
Would you like to speak to the amendments? I guess in two parts. Speaking to the issue of lifeguards, I know that in our staff briefing that we had last week, I don't think there was a single commissioner who sat around this table and was comfortable with that lifeguard item on this list. I think we all recognize the fabulous work, the unsung heroes of all our regions, lifeguards, and all they do that we know about, but all the things they do that we don't know about. I can tell you that, speaking as a second-term commissioner, speaking to a point that our former colleague spoke to, former Commissioner Ian Robertson, that in fact that this item did come up in the last budget a year ago, and unanimously the board felt that we shouldn't even consider that, and I still stand by that. And I think that whether it's our staff going back and finding some money elsewhere in our system, or us as a board through our chair advocating to City Hall, I think that it's not acceptable to have this item. I think first and foremost, people's lives and people's safety has to be under consideration. As far as the rest of the initiatives, though, I have to say I do want to commend staff. Really commend staff on the great work. I know some of these actually were on the drawing board over the last couple of years. The move to a functional system of management, getting away from the district model, and twinning up our supervisors at community centers. You know, the past few years we've had to make some tough decisions, and we've been able to get out of some sticky situations. But I think what we have here is really a testament to our staff being thoughtful with tax dollars, but also being mindful of the valuable service that we provide the residents of Vancouver, through our community centers, our pools, our rinks, and have found a way that respects our frontline workers, makes them the priority, makes the service a priority, and looks for the efficiencies in the management structure. So in all the other recommendations, I do want to just say hats off to all of our senior management team for the great job. And I look forward to the discussion on my amendment, but I would urge all of my colleagues to support this amendment. And as I said, whether it is our own staff going back to the drawing board, looking under some rocks or logs on the beach, or us collectively, I think as individual commissioners, but I would throw my full support behind our chair, Constance Barnes, to go to council and lobby and make the case that perhaps we need some help from City Hall. So I'll leave that and I look forward to it.
Sharma, to the amendment?
Yeah, I'll be supporting Commissioner Jasper's amendment. I first just wanted to say thank you all for coming out. Commissioner Jasper already mentioned that our staff briefing, we all expressed concerns about this, but this is a public process. We're elected officials, and our job is to listen to what you have to say, and thank you for taking the time to come out for us to be able to do that tonight. There was only one thing that I disagreed with when people were talking about lifeguards, and that was that they're not heroic. And they are heroic, and I think citizens across the city benefit from the work that lifeguards done as unsung heroes every day. And I also wanted to say that I think safety comes in different ways. There's the incidence of drowning, but there's also just feeling safe on a beach. And it comes, I'm sure, whether it's a woman that's there by herself, knowing that there's a lifeguard there, or kids, or anything. I think there's a sense of safety if there's a lifeguard watching out for that. And I think that will affect usage if any cuts were made to that. So yeah, thank you very much for coming out. And I do think we need to either advocate City Hall for more money or find money to cover that, because it's too vital of a service to cut. But I also wanted to comment on the rest of the staff, and it's basically just seconding what Commissioner Jasper said.
We'll speak to that when we get back to the motion. What is it?
Okay. That is to say that one thing that I think everybody has to keep in mind is actually our budget has increased. It's a good news story because we're providing more services to people in Vancouver now with our new centers and our new facilities. That being said, I know that there was a shortfall that we have to talk about for some parts, and there was a little bit of a gap. And I think what you've provided with the report is really addressing that in a way that we can feel comfortable with, because we don't have to feel like we're cutting programs. Now that we've amended it with the lifeguards, we don't have to feel like we're making it less affordable for people to go out there and participate in what makes a great city, and that's our parks and recreation system. And that, you know, we can still move forward on increasing childcare spaces, protecting our green spaces, doing all the things that I believe, we're elected to do. So, with that being said, I'd like to also take my hands off to staff for doing that, and I'd be supporting the amendment. Thanks.
Commissioner Wilkes?
First of all, I want to thank our chair, Commissioner Parsons, for all of her advocacy at City Hall. It's nice to see that in a year of a $52 million budget shortfall at the city, that we've had an increase in support, and that's, I just want to thank all the work that you do. I also want to say that it is making sure that, again, we are maintaining the levels of service at our community centers, as they should be called, community centers. And supporting the programs therein, and that well, it is unfortunate to make cuts. I mean, we said very clearly during the election campaign that we were going to look at measures of streamlining the city services, and one of those measures was going to be moving to a functional model rather than a district model. And so the cuts maintain the promise which was made. And I also want to acknowledge everyone who was here today to speak on the lifeguard motion. I'm so thankful, and I think that you will find lots of support from this board in support of the lifeguards, and I'm thankful that we have this amendment coming forward to save the service you do, and we will continue to fight to find the $270,000 that we need to make up as a result. So thank you.
Commissioner Brown?
Thank you. And thank you to everybody coming out tonight. I knew that there was going to be a lot of information, but wow, I've got pages here for our core staff that will be getting a long list of this tomorrow. I definitely support the amendment. I did learn a lot tonight, and one thing I think I'm going to be, asking staff to look at is the amount of new immigrants that we have. And it seems to me, I heard time and time again that we really need to look at educating. We need good signage. We need it to be universal. We need it to be across the board for all the new wonderful people that are coming to this city. And somehow tied into maybe school board or how we're educating our children. Because kids, and I see it, they're out there. Alice Lake was a perfect example where it was just a little fuzzer out there that saw water and they see fun, and the parents don't know, and there's English is their second language, and they don't know that it can be a really scary place to let your child get in and run. So this has been really educating tonight, and I've got a lot in my head going on, thinking of things that we could do better. So I'm grateful for everybody coming out tonight and sitting patiently and listening to all that's come forward. So with that said, I will absolutely be supporting the amendment, and I thank Commissioner Jasper for bringing that forward. And I also commend staff. These are really tough economic times. I know anybody with families like myself, we're tightening up belts. I think some of these efficiencies are great ways to move forward. I think that we're also looking at living within our means as opposed to kind of over-projecting. It's been some tough years, tough weather. Revenue has not been what we had hoped for. So it's time for the park board to look at not only the revenue that's coming in, but what we're doing with that revenue that's coming in. And some of these efficiencies, I think, are long overdue. So I'm very grateful to staff for all of their hard work, because it's 4 years for me too, and these are not easy times. But I think we've heard very loud and clear that this is not a direction that we want to be taking. So 100% support the amendment, and thank you very much for bringing it forward.
My son ran into Granville Island, the little lake there, one day. I was standing there, and there he went right into the lake and all the way up here, and it's just kids just see water and they run to it, and sometimes, I've had two near drowning experiences in my life. So, yeah, no, it's lifeguards are definitely something that, and everything that you've said tonight, and thank you all for coming out, because you do have families, and it's not always that easy to get the time off to come out to these meetings. So it's obviously really important to you. And Karen, Jasper, thank you so much for bringing this forward. I'm obviously supporting this 100%. So we'll take a vote on the end. If anyone wants to say this. Okay. I didn't see you put your hands up.
Nobody else to leave. Okay, well, I did compile something just based on all of the emails from people that I got today. I'm sure that my fellow commissioners got those emails too, and just some of the other little reasons that people had sent me. And, this is what's so great about having an independent park board in Vancouver, an elected park board in Vancouver. This is what makes us special and sets us aside from other municipalities. And I'd like to start by thanking everyone for coming out to speak to the board. I really appreciate your comments, and I've learned a lot about lifeguarding this evening and throughout my research pertinent to the staff recommendation. And also thank you to staff for answering all of my questions, as small as they might be. I really do appreciate that, and spending the time this evening and at the staff briefing. So I will support Commissioner Jasper's amendment, because I can't even imagine cutting lifeguards on our Vancouver beaches. Lifeguards are responsible for water rescues and saving people's lives, but they also prevent accidents from happening. Some of the things that I've learned include that they don't allow people to take inner tubes or air mattresses into the water off our beaches. They call children back when they've gone too far. They alert parents to where their children are if the child isn't supervised at the water's edge. They alert police to situations including drinking and mischief on our beaches. Lifeguards are truly the ambassadors of our beaches, and their presence improves the experience of users and the atmosphere overall. Employing lifeguards at Vancouver beaches needs to be considered an essential service. In researching the areas that are proposed to be unguarded, these are issues I have and that people have sent to me, and this is why I would never support the cuts to lifeguarding our Vancouver beaches. For example, at Trout Lake, it's a health hazard. One lifeguard there does make a difference and keeps people out of the water, and I believe with the new center opening, it will only bring more people down to Trout Lake. Sunset Beach, there have been drownings there, I understand, from over the years. Perhaps they date back to prior to 1975, but it doesn't matter what year it happened. If a life is gone, a life is gone. And as that area becomes highly densified and more people are moving to that area, we will see more people swimming down there. And also people trying to swim across that creek, which is very dangerous, and they're in the way of the boats. People get caught up in the currents, and rescues have been made in the past. Second Beach. There might not be a lot of sand on this beach, but triathletes swim here, and I understand that triathlons are held there. And through my research, I learned that just last August, a woman was rescued there and sent to hospital, and had it not been for a lifeguard, she might have drowned. Jericho, highly populated, especially in the evenings in the summer by teenagers, and I could just see a problem happening there right away. So, very busy area with families. Sailing Center, thank you very much to Mike Potter for shedding some light on that. And then Spanish Banks West. I've been down there myself, and with a 25-foot drop, I wouldn't even take my dog out there, never less my child, without supervision. So that's just something I wanted to mention. And I'm sorry for my lengthy speech, but I think it's really important to give the people a voice who couldn't be here tonight because they had to be with their families. And for all of these reasons, I won't be supporting cuts to our lifeguarding on our beaches. And I understand that the budget over the next few years will require us to make cuts. However, this is people's lives we're talking about, and it shouldn't be negotiable. And I don't think we can afford not to do this. So I'm happy to hear that my colleagues agree, and I hope that the next time we have this discussion, if ever, it won't come to this, it won't come to a committee meeting. We can deal with it in a staff briefing and examine new and creative streams of revenue instead of cutting a service that would likely result in drownings and deaths. And thank you very much to all of the lifeguards here for your heroic efforts and for all of the people's lives that you have saved and for the good work you do. Your work is invaluable and much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, I'm the old guy on the board. I'm not the senior one in terms of service, but I'm the oldest and I think sometimes the crabbiest. And, you know, I think what we really miss is institutional memory throughout the park board. And I heard that tonight from a number of speakers. I think that it's important that we re-engage some of these people who have such valuable experience, and perhaps our staff could reach out to them and learn about some of the hazards that are out there, and not necessarily in our lifeguards, but all through our system. Roy Forrester was here tonight, the retired director of Van Dusen, a tremendous fellow full of knowledge, and I'm sure he'd be willing to share it with some of our staff. We have some very professional staff here, but as we noted, many of them are new to Vancouver, and there's a lot to learn about Vancouver. I would like to just say a few words about Joe Fortes, because I was doing a little research, and I found it very interesting. Even at the turn of the century, when the park board just started, Joe Fortes was appointed Vancouver's first official lifeguard and swimming instructor. And he was given the authority of special constable. So that old document means something. Around the same time, he moved into a little cottage at the foot of Guilford Street. And when the city decided to clear all the houses from the beach, the mayor, agreeing with public opinion, granted special permission for Joe's cottage to be moved up by the bandstand in the park, keeping Joe as close to the beach as possible. So we know how important lifeguards are in the history of Vancouver, and they are valuable. What I would like to see in future is for us to deal with these issues before all you good people have to be dragged out on a Monday night to convince us to save something that should have never been on the table in the first place. And I think that our board needs to show more leadership at the chair level and advocate stronger at City Hall before these budgets come down, because, to be honest, I'm embarrassed that you all had to come here tonight. This is what I would call a no-brainer. We don't want to cut lifeguards. If anything, instead of them rowing around in rowboats from the 40s, perhaps they could be given some modern life-saving equipment and be able to... to the other. So while I support this motion, I'm disappointed that it had to come to this, and I thank you all for coming, and I want to particularly thank all the lifeguards for all the great service they've done for the park board and the city of Vancouver. Your efforts are appreciated, certainly, and I appreciate you all coming tonight, so thank you very much.
Passes. All right, so now we are going back to the motion. Back to the motion, back to the budget, right? Where the, no, that, oh, yeah. We don't, oh, good, okay. Good. The end of the meeting. The end of the committee meeting. And then we go on to the board. My motion's at the park board, that the regular park board. No, it's not. No, so it's going to take, like,
I'm sure I was a 5-minute break before we
Madam Chair. If we could just by way of explanation for the audience, so people know kind of procedurally how things are rolling out. This will conclude our park board committee. This oral deputation will be heard in the future on these matters. The board's going to take the committee's going to take a break and reconstitute as the board under Chair Constance Barnes, who will receive the information that was just processed, and that will be in addition to a motion that's being put forward by Commissioner Bly. So this will, and the committee will sit, and it will be a relatively brief meeting is the plan. So by way of explanation, I just want to let you know.
So the committee meeting is adjourned, and thank you all for coming out again.